Hello and welcome to a new writing vlog. I'm Liselle Sambury. I'm a traditionally published author, and this week I'm going to be again working on Bear Hunt, which is my 2024 novel. So essentially what happened, you can see my vlogs, I'll link them in the description, but I worked on drafting this pretty much over the April Camp NaNoWriMo period, though also 1 week before. So I finished drafting it last week, and so this week what I'm doing is I am making my revision plan. So what that is going to consist of is I need to read through the entire book and make notes on every single chapter of like things that I think need to be improved. The way that I am doing this time is I'm doing it a little bit different because I'm making my revision notes in Plotter instead of like doing them in Scrivener the way I've done in the past. I'm also formatting them a different way. So in the past, I basically just did full-on bullet notes of like everything that I thought needed to like be fixed or whatever. And this time I'm doing it a little bit differently. So I have categories, which I will flash up on the screen somewhere, but I'll also say, so the little like categories I've decided to add are, I'm looking at the screen now so I remember. So working well, so things that I think are working well in the chapter, so I can be aware of like things that I'm liking in it. Needs improvement, so things that I need to do better. So this can be a variety of things. Sometimes it might be character things or, plot things or basically whatever I'm like, this needs to be better. Needs to be added, so something that I need to add into the chapter that doesn't currently exist in it. Needs to be adjusted, so something that exists in the chapter that I need to tweak a little bit, which is different from needs improvement, because I think to me needs improvement is like an overall sort of idea or feeling, whereas needs to be adjusted is like very specific, like I need to fix this one thing. And then I have a tone check to see if I think I'm nailing the tone that I want in the chapter or if that needs to be adjusted or fixed. Pacing check. What do I think about the pacing of the chapter? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Does it need to be fixed? And then finally, flat characters, ? So are there any characters that are coming off flat in the scene that need to be fleshed out a bit more? And so some of those things like could fall under needs improvement, but I felt like it needed to be separate. And so this is just to help me get a more specific idea and to think about all of those things when I'm reading the chapter, instead of just kind of like making bullet point notes about whatever. I'm trying to like create a bit more focus. And then I also made a revision plan, which I'll also put somewhere on the screen. But the point of the revision plan is, so I'm just pulling it up here also so I can read it aloud. So Monday, which is today, I'm going to read over and make notes for chapters 0 to 12. I'm also going to read over my original plan, so what I originally planned for drafting and Plotter, in case there's anything that I missed there, and then I can add that into my notes. So like if I was supposed to like drop a hint about X and I read the chapter and I didn't actually do that, making sure that I go into my like needs to be added and I'm like, I need to drop a hint about X because I didn't do it when I was drafting and I was supposed to. So making those. So Tuesday I'll do chapters 13 to 25, read over. Wednesday chapters 26 to 38, read over, because I want to be done reading through everything by Wednesday, which means I have to read through 12 chapters a day, which is like, all right, I'm going to do 6 chapters in the morning, 6 chapters in the afternoon. And then Thursday, I want to examine and fix character arcs. There are some characters where I feel like I didn't quite land their arc and I want to adjust them. And then after I adjust them, I can go back and make notes in each chapter about like how I'm going to fix things to make sure it's in line with their character arc. I also need to decide on if I'm putting in new chapters on Thursday and like figure out where I'm going to put those chapters in. On Friday, I'm going to work on my timeline. So I'm going to fix my timeline and my dates. And then I'm also going to read over all of the chapters, because there's some notes I made in chapter that are actually like more general to the book. Like they need to be added in multiple chapters. And so on Friday, I'm going to read through all my notes to see if there's anything like that, and basically go through each chapter and add them where they need to be added. So for example, like, I have a chapter where something is introduced, and I'm like, oh, I introduced this thing, but then I didn't carry it out throughout the book. And so basically that would be a note that I would take, and I would go through the chapters and be like, okay, this needs to be carried through here and here and here. So that's kind of what I mean by that. And then on Saturday or Sunday, that lawyer friend, I wanted to check in with him and ask him some questions. And I don't think we'll be able to do that until the weekend. So I will have to kind of like, I guess that'll be my working on the weekend, because I've got to ask those questions and then kind of make adjustments to my revision plans based on kind of what I learned from those discussions, which may or may not be like big additions to my revision plan, but we'll see. And so that's my entire plan for this week, basically to get everything in place so that next week I can actually start the actual revising, which I'm hoping to have done by the end of May, so that I can send it to beta readers for June, because June I just want to work on my dark academia project, so then I can like send it off, and then I'll also have a break from it for a month, and that's the overall plan that I have in place for doing this revision. So today, I had a bit of a late start. So it's already past 12 when I've gotten through my first 6 chapters here. And so I'm going to take my lunch now, and then I will do the next 6 chapters, and then I'll be done for the day. And I'll check back in with you on Wednesday when I should be done going through everything. It is Thursday. I was too busy on Wednesday, so I couldn't end up doing an update. I just had a lot of stuff going on that day. And so I wasn't able to update. So it's Thursday, but I wanted to share what I ended up wrapping up on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, I finished reading through the entire book and making all of my notes, which was good. Some things that were interesting, like I talked about in a previous vlog, that like first half of the book, I had originally planned to be really fast paced, and then I had to switch some things, and so I was worried that it was going to be really slow paced and I was going to have to figure out how to add in all these action pieces. But actually when I was reading it, I didn't get that feeling. I was like, oh, it's actually fine. Like I think it was really, it's like a medium pace, and then you hit the midpoint and then it becomes like a faster pace. And I actually don't have an issue with it. I think it's totally fine. I think it's just the first half has more, it's like setting up that investigation and that sort of thing. So I am gonna check on it. The dog just, do you want to come in? Okay, there you go. She pushed open the door with her nose so that she could come in, as she does. So yeah, that first half, I think the pacing is actually fine, but I am going to double check it. I'm going to remark off my turds, which if you didn't know, I talked about this in the past, but it's like twists, reveals, and danger. And that comes from a book called Mastering Suspense. I will, in the description, I will link the book itself, and I'll also link the live stream discussion that happened on Laura Wright's channel, talking about that book, because she was running a book club, and that was one of the books that we read. And I do think I learned like some pretty cool things from that book. And so I'll have that whole discussion linked down below if you want to check that out. But yeah, so I'm gonna remark those out given the changes that I made, just to double check and see if there's any spots where I'm like, yeah, I want to like add something here. I want to add a twist or a reveal or some sort of danger to like pick up the pace a little bit more. But I was surprised because I thought that first half was gonna feel really slow paced, but it actually didn't at all. It felt a lot more like a medium paced, and then we hit the midpoint and then we get into a fast pace, which honestly I'm fine with. I would be willing to send it like that to beta readers and CPs to kind of get an idea of their feeling, and then kind of at that point, if they're like, yeah, this is really slow, then I can kind of adjust from there. But I thought it was going to feel slow, and it doesn't feel slow. It feels medium, which is good. So that's all done. And today, what I spent most of the morning doing is I had to basically like pull over my little chapter summaries. So when I plot things out, I try and do a summary of each chapter so that I know what's happening. And so I just had to pull those forward onto this new revision plotting sort of thing. So I spent the morning mostly doing that, and just doing some little additional tweaks. There were some things that I thought of I need to put in other chapters, so I added those in. But what I'm going to do in the afternoon, because I'm probably going to take a break and do this stuff in the afternoon, so I need to plan the new chapters. So I have 2 new chapters that I've added that I need to get, plotted out and decide what I'm gonna be doing in those chapters, so that I have a plan to follow. So I have to do that. And I also have to fix 2 character arcs. So my main character and her brother. So my main character, I do feel like I have her arc down well in the story, but it's different from how I originally planned it to be. And so I want to double check and make sure that I'm laddering that up and doing that correctly. And then her brother, who is technically the B plot character, who's supposed to be helping her on her journey of realization. So originally for him, I had him with a flat arc, meaning that he already kind of had his realization, and it was just kind of him helping other people come to that same realization, in the case of him helping the sister. But then while I was writing, I kind of felt like he actually was having his own positive arc. It just kind of wasn't as steep as the one that his sister is having, but I wanted him to have more of that arc and more of that like independence and autonomy as a character. Like it felt like a little bit too much like he was like a teaching tool, and I don't want that to be his character. I want him to have his own thing going on and his own stuff going on, and so I want to kind of redo his arc in that way, and that way when I'm going through, I can make sure that I'm pulling that out in the story, because I do think he has, an interesting journey that I really want to be a lot more fleshed out in the story. I don't want to feel like he just exists to help the main character, because that's not who his character is. And so that's also something I have to do today. And yeah, that's basically what I have planned out. And so tomorrow I think I'm working on all my timeline stuff, fixing my timeline things. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. But yeah, I just wanted to give that little update so you can know what I did on Wednesday and like how things are going. Oh, also my secret project outline that did get approved, and it didn't even have any changes. So that was also a good sign. So next week I will also start drafting that project. So I'm gonna jump right back into drafting again. And so yeah, that's kind of my plan for next week. So I'm glad that I've taken this week to like solidify this revision plan, and then I can kind of spread out both projects so it's not overwhelming to be working on both of those. Hopefully not overwhelming to be working on both of those at the same time. So yeah, that's the only other kind of writing update. Also for Butcher Birds, me and my editor are finalizing the synopsis for it, which is also exciting. So yeah, that's getting done. Things are coming together. I'm hoping maybe, I don't know when we'll do cover reveal, but I'm hoping it's impending as we do more of these finalization steps. So yeah, that's exciting too. And that's it.
You gotta commit to it.
I know. Okay. I wanted to snap back and hit me.
It won't. Oh. Look at that.
It was too short.
That's alright though, you're like still bang up. Oh.
It sailed in the wind. I watched it.
You gotta give it more, even more power. If you give it more power, you don't have to compensate as much in terms of
you know what? I pulled back on the power because last time it went over the stump, and so I thought, but it's true, if it went into the stump, it wouldn't matter how much power it was.
So the more the better. And then you could prospectively aim slightly lower.
Yeah, right?
Oh.
First, I want to show you, shaky. I want to show you new books that I got. So I got Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor by Shiran J. Zhao. This is my pre-order that came in the mail, and I loved Iron Widow by them, so I really wanted to check out the middle grade, which is actually published by my publisher, by Margaret K. McElderry, and me and Shiran have the same editor, except of course this is a middle grade and not YA, but yeah, I thought that was fun. So really excited, and it's I don't know if you could see it on camera, but it's like very shiny, which is nice. And like that's the naked, which is also really cool. I hope that's showing up on camera. But yeah, so I got that one. That was my pre-order that came in. And then I also bought a physical copy of The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake because I read it from the library and I really liked it. So I decided I would get my own copy, especially when it's like books are in a series, because then I'm like, well, if I get my own copy and I keep it, then I can like reread it in anticipation of the next book. So yeah, it's really cool. It also has a very nice naked. There it is. And it's got like illustrations of the characters as well. Hold on. There's one of them. There you go. So it's also got illustrations of the characters in it. So I'm really excited about having my own copy. And those were the new books that I got that I wanted to show off. Now updating. So I'm very nearly done. So what I did today is I basically fixed my timeline. So the timeline is finally fixed and like it's tight and it's good. I also put a note of on my pacing for those twists, reversal, danger, turds that I talked about. I went through and I marked all the chapters again and I double checked, and I really only needed to add one kind of danger element in the beginning just to get those elements happening more often so that the book can feel more fast paced. And so I just kind of added a note to myself. They're kind of doing a little bit of an investigation, and so I added a note to myself that, like, you know, they could have a danger of being caught, and like to pump that up when I do the revision, and that way it'll get that danger element and that'll help with the pacing, because like I said, the pacing in the first half is actually medium. It's not slow. And so I just needed to add that one chapter and that'll pick it up and that'll make it a little bit more fast paced, but it still won't be as fast paced as the latter half of the book. So it still has somewhere to go. It's not going to be super fast paced and then immediately drop off. So I'm happy about that. I also changed one of the characters' names. I just like, sometimes I like doing names and like playing games with names and like doing stuff like that. And so I had this whole thing with a character that was named Karen and Karen's, and I was going to do this whole thing. And then I was just like, why are you doing this? Like, what is the real point of this? Truly, what is the point of this? And I decided there was no point in it. So I changed her name. And now I have to go through and like make sure I do those edits. It's easy in Scrivener because I can just do replace all, but like I don't have that option in Plotter or in Notion, or maybe in Notion, but I don't have that option in Plotter. So all my plotting stuff still says the old name, but it's fine. So I changed that. And right now what I'm doing, I'm just going through each chapter, and like if there's anything that I noted that kind of needs to be noted in additional chapters, I'm just kind of copying and pasting that around. So I'm doing that. But while I was doing that, I had a note to myself which was like, put in more 90s references, because one of the POVs takes place in the 90s. And I was like, oh yeah, more 90s references. And so I started listening to a playlist from 1995, which is the new date. It used to be 1992, 1993. I changed it to 1995, 1996 because it had more references that I was familiar with, and I just like felt that was a better period. So I did that instead. But yeah, and then I was like, let me Google 90s fashion in 1995. And it was just like, it was rabbit holing so quickly that I was like, let me come and do this update. But I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. They are journal entries, so she's like not necessarily going to be making a ton of references. And I also don't want to do that thing that sometimes happens in books where like I think the author gets like really excited to be setting in a certain time period, and you end up being like beat over the head with all of these references, and it's just too much. I don't want that. I don't want people to be distracted by the references. I just kind of want them to be peppered in as is relevant. So like I have like right now I have a moment where the character talks about like wanting to be like Will and like wanting to just like be, you know, adopted by rich relatives and like have your whole life change in that way. Which like that's, you know, that's like a quick whatever Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reference. So stuff like that. Like I don't want it to be like, and then I pulled on, I don't know, what is even in 1995, and then I like checked my Tamagotchi and I'm so off right now. But I don't want it to be like that. Like I put on my little string choker and like my barrettes and my baubles, and then I walked out of the door and I had to wear my like MC Hammer pants or whatever. I know this is so all over the place, but that's what I don't want it to do. I don't want it to be so excessive. But again, I've gotten trapped in this rabbit hole, and so I was just like, I'm gonna see what works. Like there's gonna be a funeral later in the book, and I was like, yeah, I think, you know, song choice of like talking about the song that was playing, that's like a reference that makes sense and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on now. But I feel like it's gonna take me a while because it's like 3 o'clock now, and like just doing the stuff in the morning took me so long. So I expect that it's gonna be running throughout the day. So I figured I'd update now. But yeah, so this is really it for this writing vlog in this week. I just kind of wanted to take you along on the journey of me planning this out, because it is like a much more extensive revision plan than I expected, and it's a lot of stuff to do, but I think it's gonna be really good. And this is my first time, you know, using Plotter to help me, and like using Notion also to like mark things, and they've been really, really helpful as tools for this revision, so I'm excited about that too. Hello, it is me on the weekend popping in for one super quick update because I've changed some things. So essentially I was looking at my calendar and all the stuff I have to do and thinking about working on 2 projects, working on editing Bear Hunt and drafting this secret project in May for the whole month. And I was like, And I just decided not to do that. So I'm just going to work on the secret project because I do have a very firm deadline on that one. But for Bear Hunt, my deadline isn't until October 1st. And so I was just like, why am I rushing to do this? And I do this stuff all the time where I like get myself into doing more work than I need to weirdly finish something early for no reason. So I decided to change things. So I'm not going to be working on editing Bear Hunt this month. I'm actually going to push that to not June, July. I'm going to push that to working on it in July, which is kind of nice because it'll let me have more time to have the manuscript rest. And I already have all my edits planned. So by the time I get into July, I can just hop straight into edits and it'll be the only project I'm working on. So I won't be doubled up. And then that way this month in May, I can continue working on drafting my secret project. And that's the only thing I will have to do. And so this will give me a lot more flexibility with my timelines. It give me a lot more time to work on stuff, and I'll finish editing Bear Hunt just before the deadline, right on time. And so I'm like working within my mind to get myself closer to things that are my actual deadline, to make sure that I'm getting that spread out on my work so that I can try and concentrate on just one project at a time, which is what I ideally want to do for my own focus and just for my workload. So yeah, that's how things will be. So my next writing vlog will actually just be me working on the secret project. And so yeah, that's really it for this writing vlog. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Bye!